You were never just being watched. You were being studied by someone who once loved you. The camera isn't there for safety. It's there for secrets. That officer didn't install the cameras for crime. He installed them for closure. You're not under surveillance. You're under spiritual investigation. A man in uniform keeps replaying the clip of you weeping. They aren't protecting you. They're obsessed with you. You locked the door. He still sees everything. Every blink you made was time-stamped, especially the ones filled with regret. Your sorrow caught his attention more than your smile ever did. The footage is archived like sacred scripture. That lens remembers more of you than your family does. He rewatches the moment you fell apart. It breaks him every time. Your pain plays like ritual on their screens. You were made a subject, but heaven knows your prophecy. The room you cry in most has the highest resolution. They say it's protocol, but no law explains why he lingers. Your breakdown is bookmarked in someone's private folder. The camera caught you praying for someone it was never meant to see. You keep thinking you're alone. The footage says otherwise. You were placed on watch, not for threat, but for truth. That officer saw you collapse and whispered your name. You lit a candle. The camera caught your shadow hugging it. They're studying your heartbreak, like evidence from a crime scene. The footage keeps playing a 3-second loop of you forgiving someone who isn't sorry. Your silence was louder than any alarm. What they recorded was not a person. It was a soul unraveling. The most watched part of the tape is when you gave up. You weren't the case. You were the cause. He didn't forget you. That's why the camera never sleeps. You asked for protection. You got obsession. Your pain replays like a favorite song. A government file has your face circled. But it's not about crime. The shadow they keep seeing isn't human. It only appears when you cry. The timestamp matches the day he left you. You lit incense. The smoke danced like an answer. They say it's policy, but your name is underlined in red. You are watched, not because you're dangerous, but because you're unforgettable. There is no case number, only your initials. The footage showed light around you, but no one believes it. Someone cried in the surveillance room when you whispered, "Come back." You were documented falling out of love with life. The shadow appeared again. Same time you prayed for him. There are 43 saved clips of you looking at the sky. The officer refused to delete your file. He said, "She's still speaking." That wasn't a glitch. That was the moment your spirit tried to leave. You buried the letter. The camera still caught your goodbye. The footage froze when you said, "I'm tired of being strong." There's a folder named after your middle name. He never stopped watching. He just stopped showing up. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Comment your favorite quote and subscribe for more. The camera caught your healing in slow motion. Your laughter was the only sound in a silent room. He watches every moment you hesitate, especially at the door. Your image on screen flickers only when your heart does. The room lights up when you talk to yourself. They enhance the audio. Your soul was louder than your voice. The camera shook the night you said, "I still love him." A rose fell in the frame. You don't remember buying one. They reviewed 72 hours of footage and said, "Something divine lives there." You weren't doing anything wrong, but everything hurt. They added extra storage just for you. The camera caught a tear falling into your hand like it had a message. Someone watches the footage like it's church. You weren't walking around your room. You were searching for peace. Your reflection smiled before you did. That mirror moment, the camera caught a second figure. You exhaled and the lights dimmed. The tape replays the time you reached for your chest in pain. Someone noticed how you stopped breathing when you hear his name. The footage shows your shadow touching your shoulder. Your body didn't move. The moment you opened the Bible, static filled the screen. The officer wrote "anointed" in the margin of your report. You wore white that day. A moth hovered near your light all night. You weren't breaking down. You were shedding illusion. They marked your file Watch until further revelation. Your sadness was time-stamped. It's now evidence in someone's unfinished love story. The camera doesn't blink, but he did when you said his name. They track your sleep, but what terrifies them is how often you wake in prayer. You think you're healing in silence, but every tear has been reviewed. The footage never lies. You still wait for someone who swore they'd return. There's a shadow that shows up behind you only when you smile. You aren't under surveillance. You are under spiritual custody. They rewatch the night you danced alone. Something divine entered your room. The officer paused the footage when you touched your chest and said, God. Your eyes glowed the moment you forgave someone who never asked. That wasn't just loneliness. The silence was filled with visitation. The camera caught light bursting from your mouth as you cried. Someone whispered your name during playback, but the audio was off. Your pain created a ripple in the static. They say it's for safety, but you're being studied like prophecy. He memorized your pacing. Each step a chapter he never wrote. The timestamp matches the hour you lost hope. The footage flickers when you almost choose joy. He watches not to protect you, but because he never moved on. The room you mourned in has its own folder. Every sigh you release is archived. They keep reviewing the footage, looking for where you broke. Your file is marked with a heart. You weren't crying. You were releasing centuries of ache. They didn't expect divinity to live in apartment footage. The officer stopped breathing when you whispered, "Come back, just once." He visits the surveillance room just to see your shadow move. That light in your kitchen? It flares when your voice breaks. You were never a threat, but you awaken something in them. Someone listens to the echo of your silence on loop. The moment you forgave yourself, the system glitched. The hallway flickered with a presence unseen by your eyes. You thought you were unwatchable. He calls it sacred cinema. They tried to mute your breakdown, but heaven recorded it. The officer who ordered the camera said your name like a prayer. You stopped speaking. The shadow in the room bowed. Every time you wear black, the recording grows brighter. The footage shows light resting on your pillow every morning. They said it was evidence, but the spirit realm calls it offering. Someone's watching to see if you ever smile again. They study the way you hold your coffee like it holds memory. The night you whispered, "I still miss him," the lens shook. There's a figure who stands behind you, matching your breath. You weren't captured. You were crowned. He hasn't confessed, but his surveillance is his love letter. The footage shows you tracing names on the mirror with your finger. They saw you break and found themselves in your silence. You are their only case marked unresolved longing. Your grief is sacred. The camera caught heaven kneeling. The security log is filled with timestamps of heartbreak. You aren't being watched. You're being waited for. A shadow crossed your window at 3:17 a.m. You thought it was a dream. The camera knows it wasn't. They said it was for your safety. But even heaven flinched when the red light blinked twice. The lens saw what you buried. The footage won't lie. There's a file on you. Not because you're guilty, because you're chosen. They watched you cry when no one else knew you were breaking. Your silence was sacred until it was recorded and archived forever. Someone prayed protection over your door. That's when the surveillance began. The camera never blinked, but God did. Out of mercy. Every whisper, every sigh. It's all on loop somewhere, only angels dare look. They weren't watching for crimes. They were waiting for your soul to shatter. You were too divine to go unnoticed. Even satellites adjusted for your light. They studied you like a prophecy. You were never just a civilian. You didn't invite them in. But love always comes with spies. That footage holds more than fear. It holds the moment you forgave your enemy. You mouthed, "God help me," to the ceiling. The audio caught it. A lawman had a dream of you glowing. That's when the order was signed. You're the only one being watched with reverence, not suspicion. The footage won't be used in court. It's being saved for something higher. Even your heartbreak made the lights flicker. The night you danced alone, the Earth's axis tilted slightly. They documented it. They said she's just a woman. The footage said otherwise. You slept through the storm, but heaven stayed awake to defend you. That tear wasn't missed. It's the one moment they still replay. They installed the camera, but God encrypted the footage. The one watching isn't human anymore, and he remembers you from another lifetime. The camera turned itself off during your prayer. That wasn't a malfunction. Your scream didn't reach your neighbor, but it shook the review team. Someone erased part of the tape. He said she deserves peace. You asked no one for help, but help still found your hallway. The file is marked "Do Not Harm." They don't know why. The night you almost gave up, the sky surged. It's on film. You lit a candle. The flame revealed a figure behind you. They watched for sin. What they captured was glory. You didn't know the red light meant recording, but your soul did. A man in uniform whispered, "She's not normal." He was right. They call it surveillance. God calls it witness. The tape keeps glitching during the moment you forgave your past. The hallway camera turned blurry when you wept for your mother. Someone said, "Mark this one." They still don't know why they said it. They watched you fall and rise without understanding either. You're not the threat. You're the shift. A figure appeared beside you at 4:44. No one's explained it yet. They recorded every breath, but not your prayer. It was too sacred. Even the security team stopped breathing when they saw you glowing. A shadow keeps pacing your doorway. It never leaves. The camera caught more than your face. It caught your healing. You broke down in the kitchen. The microwave light flickered. Review it. You weren't alone. The footage says so. Your name has been whispered in the control room more than once. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Comment your favorite quote and subscribe for more. Someone in uniform watches you pray. They're not just observing. They're learning what guilt looks like in silence. You thought they forgot. They installed memory in machines. Every time you cry alone, someone rewinds it. Slowly, there's footage of you forgiving them. That's the part that broke them. You smiled once while wounded. That moment is archived. They don't understand your prayers, but they fear your name. A man reviewed 3 seconds of you. He never looked away again. You're not paranoid. You're prophetic. You walk like someone heaven is tracking. They didn't know they were filming a chosen one. A tear you wiped? It was time-stamped. The door didn't creak. It whispered. The recording cut when angels entered. They zoom in on your eyes. That's where your ancestors live. That camera saw you collapse and stand again. Footage exists of your last heartbreak. It's classified. He ordered surveillance. He didn't expect revelation. One of them started watching you. Now they pray for you. Every silent scream you've released echoes in data. That night you repented, heaven and earth both recorded it. They call it footage. God calls it evidence of grace. There's a scene where you forgive them. It stopped someone from ending their life. The still frame they revisit. Your soul rising before your body does. Someone watches every sunrise you survive. You are divine documentation. They rewind to watch the moment you smiled while shattered. Your silence is louder on tape. They thought they were watching a suspect. They were witnessing a prophecy. Someone cried watching you forgive in private. The real surveillance was never the camera, it was your angels. They caught you praying for your enemies. Now they fear your God. The evidence they've collected? Holiness in human form. A sergeant saw your suffering and whispered your name in his sleep. You're the only footage that makes them feel again. They wanted dirt. They found a disciple. You're being watched, but so is your watcher. That footage isn't just stored. It's sacred. The room they installed it in, God already filled it first. There's a frame they won't delete. The day you collapsed at 3:14 a.m. Your pain is preserved like Holy Scripture. Someone watches you the way heaven watches you. You're not just under surveillance. You're under divine protection. They tried to trap you with truth. You showed them mercy instead. Someone reviewed 10 seconds of your struggle. Then he called his mother. A tape exists of your surrender. It's more powerful than a sermon. That room where you cried, it holds more light than they planned. They analyzed your pain. They couldn't decode your peace. The one who ordered this, he's now the one haunted. They monitor your steps. They missed your wings. If this touched your soul, don't scroll, comment your favorite quote and subscribe for more. They couldn't stop staring when you whispered, God, help me, through tears. You prayed in code. Only heaven translated. They set up cameras to catch sin. They caught salvation. One of them heard your midnight worship. He hasn't slept since. The recordings don't just show movement. They reveal mysteries. Your pain taught someone compassion. Your silence taught someone to pray. You weren't caught. You were seen. They zoomed in on your grief and felt their own return. Every breath you take feels like prophecy under surveillance. Your shadow confesses nothing. Your light reveals everything. The officer who watches you now believes in angels. You bend but don't break. The lens keeps failing to capture that. Their camera recorded a spirit, not just a body. They set it up expecting to see mistakes. They saw miracles. He studies your footage. He doesn't know he's studying faith. They tried to weaponize the truth. You wore it like armor. The most powerful moment on tape. When you let go and still loved. Someone is learning from your endurance. That flicker in your hallway? Not all watchers wear badges. The camera flickered when you forgave. You are living scripture, digitally preserved. What they monitor for law, heaven shields in love. Every sigh you release becomes sacred static.